When I first saw the house, it felt like a bargain too good to be true. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a backyard that sloped into a thicket of trees. The rent was cheap, absurdly cheap, for a place that size, in a quiet suburb only 20 minutes from downtown. The landlord, an older man named Mr. Halvers, met me on the front porch and barely spoke more than a few words. No small talk, no paperwork, just a key, a short handshake, and a muttered, "Don't go poking around the basement." At the time, I thought he was being quirky, one of those oddball landlords with a preference for privacy. I laughed it off. I moved in on a Wednesday. It rained the entire week. Unpacking was slow. I lived alone, recently out of a breakup that had left me reeling and grateful for the space. My ex, Natalie, had always hated silence. I was starting to appreciate it. But the silence in the house wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, the kind that hums beneath your skin, like a pressure in the walls. The first few nights I couldn't sleep. The floors creaked when I wasn't walking. Doors gently clicked open that I swore I'd shut. Once, the faucet in the guest bathroom turned on by itself. Just a slow drip, but rhythmic, like a ticking clock. I kept telling myself it was an old house. Pipes, temperature shifts, bad insulation, all fixable, all explainable. Then I found the door. It was in the basement, which, by the way, I hadn't planned on exploring, not after Mr. Halver's warning, but I had stored some boxes down there and needed my winter coat. The basement was unfinished, concrete floors, cobwebs in the corners, and a smell like wet wood and old soil. At first glance, there was nothing strange about it, but while moving some boxes against the far wall, I heard a hollow thunk, like the wall wasn't solid. I cleared the space. The concrete behind the boxes looked different, darker, like it had been patched recently. I tapped again. Hollow. Then I saw it. The faint outline of a rectangle, a hidden door. There was no handle, no keyhole, just a small, circular indentation at about waist height. Something in me said, "Don't touch it." But I did. I pressed my thumb into the indentation. The wall gave a quiet click, and the rectangle shifted forward, just slightly, like it had been sealed for a long time and wasn't used to movement. The door opened inward, and beyond it was darkness. Not the kind of darkness you get when a room has no lights, the kind that feels alive. I stood at the threshold, frozen. Something about that darkness didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like it was watching, like it had been waiting. I reached for my phone and turned on the flashlight. The narrow beam cut through the black, revealing a narrow corridor just beyond the door. Concrete walls, low ceiling, barely wide enough for me to walk without brushing both shoulders. I hesitated only a second longer before stepping inside. The air was different, heavier, stale. It smelled of rot and old paper. I followed the hallway about 15 feet before it opened into a small, windowless room. The walls were lined with peeling wallpaper, yellowed and damp. In the center of the room sat a wooden chair, rotting, brittle, and beside it, a small table. On the table, a tape recorder and a journal. The journal was leather-bound, its cover cracked and stained. The pages were filled with dense handwriting, angry, erratic, some lines scrawled in all caps, some scratched out entirely. I flipped through the pages, and one phrase kept appearing again and again. "They watch through the walls." Chills crawled up my arms. The tape recorder looked decades old. Dust coated its surface, and a label on the cassette read, "Play last." My hands trembled as I pressed the button. Click. A voice crackled through the speaker, male, hoarse, panicked. "If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it. They're in the walls. Don't trust the rooms that echo back. Don't sleep with the lights off. And whatever you do, don't stay past 30 days. That's when they start whispering your name." There was a pause. A shaky breath. "They took my brother. They wore his face for weeks before I knew. I burned the skin off him before it stopped smiling. It didn't scream." The tape clicked off. I stepped back, chest pounding, the journal still clutched in my hand. Suddenly, a cold gust of air rushed past me. The door had closed. I ran toward it, heart in my throat, but it wasn't locked. Still, the moment I stepped out of the hidden room, something had changed. The air upstairs felt heavier. The house felt different, more alive. That night, I heard footsteps upstairs. But I live alone. I didn't sleep that night. The footsteps started around 2:00 a.m., slow, deliberate pacing directly above my bedroom ceiling, back and forth. A pause. Then again, I lay there, sheets pulled to my chin, too afraid to breathe too loudly. Every creak felt like it was stepping closer. I knew it wasn't rats or settling wood. These were heavy, like someone wearing boots on hardwood. But that room above me, it was empty. Just a guest bedroom I hadn't used yet. At sunrise, I forced myself upstairs. Nothing. Just morning light streaming through dusty blinds and silence so thick it made my ears ring. Still, I couldn't shake it. I walked through every room, checking every closet, under every bed, in every corner. Then I saw it. A smudge on the hallway wall, at shoulder height, like someone had pressed their hand there. The print was long, with spindly fingers, and just a bit too wide to be human. I wiped it away, pretended it wasn't strange, told myself it was my own hand, somehow. But by that afternoon, I started noticing the doors again. They wouldn't stay where I left them. I'd close the bathroom door, walk away, come back, and it'd be open. The door to the basement, once shut with a bolt, was cracked open the next evening. Just an inch. Just enough to make you wonder. I nailed it shut. I heard the nails squeal and pop out 3 hours later. That was the night I started locking myself in my bedroom, just until morning. I placed a chair against the doorknob, turned on every light, and slept with headphones in. Soft music. Anything to drown out the whispers I thought I heard outside the door. It worked for a few nights. But the fourth night, the light bulb above my bed exploded at 3:14 a.m. The music cut out. And from behind the door, I heard my voice whisper, "Why did you open it?" I didn't leave the house the next day. I wanted to. I had every intention to pack a bag, call a friend, drive until I forgot the shape of the house's shadow. But something kept me there. Not physically. There were no chains, no locked gates. But the moment I stood by the front door with my keys in hand, a deep, twisting anxiety filled my chest, like something was warning me, if you leave, it will follow. Instead, I sat on the living room floor with the journal from the basement spread out before me. I flipped page after page, desperately searching for patterns. The author never signed his name, but he kept referring to the boy in the crawl space and the door that grows wider when you're not looking. One entry chilled me more than the rest. I heard her humming again, from behind the walls, same tune as before, the one Mother used to sing. But she's not really humming. It's just the house pretending to remember. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the crawl space. I hadn't checked it since I moved in. It was behind a loose panel in the hallway closet, a tiny square opening leading under the stairs. I had ignored it for weeks. I didn't even store anything there. I opened it slowly, flashlight in hand. The air rushed out like it hadn't moved in years, damp, sour, thick. I coughed. Inside, the space stretched deeper than I expected, farther than should be possible. I crawled in, flashlight beam shaking with every breath. After maybe 10 feet, I found it, a bundle of cloth, dark, stained, wrapped around something heavy. I unwrapped it, a porcelain doll, cracked and filthy, with one missing eye. Tucked into the dress was a note, written in a child's shaky hand. "Don't play with her at night. She wakes up hungry." I backed out of the crawl space as fast as I could, and for the first time since I moved in, I left the house. I drove aimlessly for hours, ate drive-through food I couldn't taste, sat in a gas station parking lot until the sky turned orange. But when I returned, the doll was on my bed. The next morning, I drove to the rental office. I'd never met the owner in person. All the paperwork had been handled through a website, digitally signed, documents auto-filled. Too convenient now that I thought about it. The receptionist looked up with mild surprise when I walked in. "Oh," she said, Unit 12. Unit 12. They didn't say my name, just the number. Who lived there before me? I asked. Her smile faltered. We don't really keep long-term tenants in that unit, I pressed. Asked for names, incidents, anything. She hesitated, then sighed and pulled up a list on her screen. 7 tenants in the last 3 years. None stayed more than 6 months. 2 had terminated their leases early with vague complaints. Weird noises, feeling watched, unexplained drafts. 1 file had a note in red. Tenant left in middle of the night. Never picked up deposit. I asked for contact information. She shook her head. Against policy. So I tried something else. I went to the county records office. Asked about the property history. The clerk was uninterested until I gave the address. Then she stopped typing. You're not the first to ask, she said softly. That house has a reputation. What kind? She glanced around, lowered her voice. It was built in 1913. Original owner was a man named Caleb Vaughn, had a wife and a child. The wife went missing during the second winter. Never found. And the child? Died young. Officially, illness. Unofficially, neighbors heard things, screaming, scratching behind the walls. She pulled an old photo from the file, black and white, 3 people standing in front of the house, a man with sharp features, a woman with a faint smile, and a little girl. The girl was holding a doll, the same doll I found in the crawl space. I didn't go back home right away. I sat in my car with the photo in my lap, staring at the girl's face. It wasn't the kind of thing you could mistake. The doll was unique. Handmade, the cracked porcelain face, the black stitches where a mouth should be. She held it in the picture like it was her best friend. That night, I tried to sleep at a motel, a cheap one off the highway, but it followed me. Around midnight, the TV in the room flickered on by itself. The screen was filled with static, until it cleared just enough to show the inside of my house. A live feed. My bedroom. The doll was sitting upright on my pillow, facing the camera. I shut off the TV. But the screen didn't go dark. Instead, it smiled. Not the doll, the screen itself, twisting, warping, forming a grotesque grin in the digital snow. I ran. Slept in my car. At dawn, I returned to the house, not out of bravery, but because I needed answers. The hidden room was still open. I hadn't dared to enter since that first day, but now I did. Flashlight in hand, heart pounding, I crossed the threshold. It was smaller than I remembered, dustier. The air felt thicker, and the back wall, it was covered in drawings, childlike scribbles, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Crayons, charcoal, sometimes just smears of dirt or ash. Figures standing in doorways, hands reaching through cracks, wide smiling mouths where eyes should be. In the corner sat a small wooden chair. Tied to it, with brittle yellowed rope, was a stuffed bear. Its eyes had been gouged out. On the wall above it, written in something dark and flaking, was a sentence. She never stopped playing. Then I heard it. A giggle, high-pitched, behind me. I turned and saw the hallway door closing on its own, trapping me inside. I slammed my shoulder against the door, but it wouldn't budge. The old wood felt like concrete. The air in the room thickened, like it had weight, like the house was exhaling something foul into that tiny space. My flashlight flickered. From the shadows behind the chair came the sound of footsteps. Small ones, bare feet across dusty floorboards. I held the light toward the corner, but nothing was there. Then a voice. A child's whisper, soft and sweet. Do you want to play? I nearly dropped the flashlight. The chair moved. Just a little, enough to creak on the floor. My breath came shallow and fast. I'm not here to play, I whispered, more to myself than anything else. The voice giggled again. You already are. The walls began to shift, not literally, but in that way that makes you question whether you're awake. The drawings started moving. Slowly at first, arms stretching, mouths opening. The figure with no eyes reached outward from the wall. I stumbled back, my flashlight catching on a small metal box under the chair. I lunged for it. It was cold, heavy, locked with a tiny latch. As I touched it, everything stopped. The whispers, the movement, even the pressure in the air. The house was holding its breath. I unlatched it. Inside were dozens of Polaroid photographs. All the same girl from the photo at the records office, sitting in the same room, her face changing, smiling, crying, laughing, screaming. The last photo made me stop breathing. It was a shot of the room, empty, but in the corner, me. Looking straight at the camera, and behind me, a figure, tall, thin, and twisted, its hands resting gently on my shoulders. My flashlight died, and in the darkness, I felt fingers brush against my neck. I couldn't scream, not because I was too afraid, but because something was holding my voice down, like a cold hand around my throat. The fingers on my neck lingered for a second more, then slipped away. I fumbled in the dark, my palms slick with sweat, my heart hammering like it was trying to escape my chest. My phone. I needed light. I managed to pull it from my pocket. The screen lit up, only for a second. No service battery 1%. Before I could turn on the flashlight, it shut off completely. And then I wasn't alone. I felt it first. A presence behind me, breathing. Heavy, slow. Then I heard the floorboards creak, the sound of something pacing in a slow, deliberate circle around the room. A faint whisper again, closer this time. "You're in her place." "Who's she?" I whispered, my voice barely holding together. Silence. Then, "She never left." I backed up until I hit the wall, trying to anchor myself. My fingers brushed something cold, metal, the box. I grabbed it and clutched it to my chest like a shield. And that's when the door opened. No sound, no draft, just a slow, widening crack of light from the hallway. I didn't question it. I ran. Up the stairs, out the front door, into the morning light, gasping like I had just broken through the surface of water. I didn't stop running until I was halfway down the street. Only then did I look down. The box was still in my hands, and taped to the lid, a fresh piece of yellowed paper, handwritten in a child's looping scrawl. "You can leave the house, but she goes with you." I didn't go back. Not that night, not the next day. I booked a hotel across town and stayed there, too afraid to sleep, too wired to eat. But even in that sterile room, under bright lights and humming air conditioning, I could feel it. Like the house was still breathing behind my back. The box sat on the table, unopened now. I couldn't bring myself to look inside again. Every time I glanced at it, I swore it shifted. Just slightly. Like it breathed. I called the property management office. No answer. I emailed. Left voicemails. I even drove to their listed address the next morning. Vacant building. Sign removed. Windows boarded up like it hadn't been used in years. I started to wonder if I had ever signed anything at all. That night I heard it again. The whisper. Not in my head, not in the room, from the bathroom. I stood in front of the mirror, heart pounding, sweat pooling in my palms. At first I saw only myself, but then, in the reflection, over my shoulder, something moved, a shape, slender, pale, tilted head, empty eyes. And then I heard her voice, close, inside my ear, not through the mirror. "You saw the door. Now it's open." I spun around. Nothing. But in the mirror, the room was different. The walls, peeling, the light, flickering. And in the corner, the girl, kneeling, facing away, her doll resting in her lap. I turned back to the real room. Empty. But in the mirror, she began to stand. I covered the mirror with a towel and backed away. But even covered, I could still feel her behind the glass. Watching. Waiting. Every reflective surface became a threat. I unplugged the hotel TV, avoided the bathroom, turned every picture frame face down, and still, at 3:12 a.m., I heard her whisper, "You opened it. Now you keep it open." I wanted to leave the city, just run. But when I checked out of the hotel and got into my car, the box was already on the passenger seat. I hadn't brought it. I hadn't touched it. But there it was, humming faintly, breathing. I tried throwing it away, dumpster, river, even smashing it with a hammer. It never dented. And every night, It was back, wherever I went. On the sixth night, I gave up and opened it again. Inside were not just photos anymore, but hair, blonde, curled, a baby tooth, and a small note card. Do you remember being her? That broke something inside me, because suddenly, I did. Not clearly, not fully, but I remembered sitting in that room, drawing on the walls, whispering to the doll, singing lullabies to someone in the dark, and a woman's voice, faint and cold, "Be still, or the bad ones will come." I looked at my hands. They were trembling, smaller than I remembered. Was I dreaming? Was I remembering? Or was the house using my thoughts to rebuild her, to become her? I stopped trusting clocks. Every time I looked, they showed a different time. Minutes moved backward, hours skipped forward. One night I watched the second hand go in perfect circles, then just stop. People I passed on the street looked familiar, too familiar, like they had been in my dreams, or maybe I'd been in theirs. I started keeping notes on my phone, things I knew were real, my birthday, my favorite food, my sister's name. But the next day the notes would be different. My sister's name is Emily. Then, my sister drowned in 1993. Then, I never had a sister. The photos in my gallery changed too. One day I saw a picture of me standing in front of the hidden door, smiling, eyes black. I never took that photo. I never smiled like that. I stopped sleeping. I couldn't risk waking up somewhere else again. On the seventh night, the box opened on its own. Inside, only one thing: a brass key. Old, ornate. The number 12 etched into its head. As soon as I touched it, a voice whispered from everywhere at once, "Come home." My body moved before my brain caught up. I drove, for hours, not sure where I was going, but knowing exactly how to get there. Back to the house. The for rent sign was gone, the grass was overgrown, the windows dark, but the front door was unlocked, and as I stepped inside, everything felt welcoming, like I'd never left, like I'd finally returned. The air inside the house felt thick, like it hadn't been breathed in years, yet every corner of it pulsed, alive. I walked through the hallway, each step muffled like I was walking underwater. The floorboards groaned, but not from my weight, from anticipation, from memory. When I passed the bathroom mirror, the towel I had once draped over it was gone. My reflection stood there, smiling. But it wasn't my smile, and it didn't blink. The stairs creaked as I climbed, though I didn't remember climbing them. I was just suddenly there, in the hallway with the room, the hidden one. Except now, the door was gone, just wall, until I blinked. And then it was there, wooden, rotting. The number 12 burned into the frame. I reached into my pocket. The key was waiting. I didn't remember bringing it, but I had it. The lock turned before I even touched it, and the door swung open. Inside, it wasn't a room. It was a corridor, long, narrow, flickering with a faint yellow light that buzzed like an old refrigerator, lined with mirrors, all of them facing inward. I stepped in. The door closed behind me. Every mirror showed a different me, some crying, some screaming, some whispering. One stood completely still, head tilted, mouthing words I couldn't hear, and then, all at once, they stopped, looked directly at me, and in perfect unison, they whispered, "We've been waiting." I kept walking. The corridor didn't end. It shifted, twisted. Sometimes the walls curved inward, like the house was exhaling. Sometimes the mirrors pulsed, rippled, as if they were made of water. Then I saw her. In the last mirror, the little girl. But she wasn't sitting anymore. She was standing, facing me. Her eyes were wide and glassy, her dress torn. One hand held the doll, the other pointed down the hallway, to a door I hadn't noticed before. I turned, and it was there. Not rotting like the others. This one was clean, polished, white. A brass plaque read, "Mother." I didn't want to open it, but my hand moved anyway. Inside the room was small, a rocking chair in the center, a bassinet in the corner, and pictures, hundreds of them, pinned to the walls, hanging from strings, even glued to the ceiling. All of me, some sleeping, some brushing my teeth, one eating breakfast 2 mornings ago, all from angles I couldn't explain. Then I saw the largest photo, framed, centered above the chair. It was the little girl. But her face, it was mine, child-sized, but undeniably me. A voice whispered behind me, not from the walls, from the chair. "I missed you." I turned. The chair rocked slowly, but no one was sitting in it. Still the voice continued. "You found me. That means it's time." The walls began to pulse. The photos twitched. Some peeled off, fluttered to the ground like dying leaves. I stepped back. The mirrors behind me screamed, cracked. Then one shattered completely, and through it, something stepped out. The thing that stepped through the shattered mirror was me, but younger, maybe 12, maybe younger, barefoot, dirty, wearing the same torn pajamas I'd seen in old family photos. But the eyes weren't mine. They were empty, like someone had scooped the soul out and left the vessel. It stared at me, tilted its head, then smiled, and whispered, "You left me here." I backed away, heart pounding, but the room had changed. No door, no hallway, just white walls pulsing with breath. The rocking chair creaked. Photos still fell from the ceiling. Each one changed as they landed, showing me in different places. Rooms I'd never been in. Speaking to people I didn't recognize. Dressed in clothes I didn't own. Living lives I didn't remember. The child version of me stepped closer. Every footstep echoed like thunder. "Do you know how long I waited?" it said. "Do you know what Mother did when you left?" I shook my head. I didn't understand. I didn't want to. She told me stories, made me drink the dark water, made me watch. Every time you looked in the mirror, I screamed, but you never heard me. I tried to speak, but no sound came. The child raised its hand and pointed at the mirror. "Now it's your turn." I turned. The mirror wasn't broken anymore, but my reflection was gone. Only she was there, the little girl, sitting in the chair again, humming. Then she looked up and mouthed 2 words, "Switch places." My hands wouldn't move, my legs wouldn't respond. I was trapped, but not by walls or locks, by her gaze. The girl, me, but not, stood between me and the mirror. She raised her hand again, and this time my body copied her perfectly. I didn't want to, but I did. When she turned her head, I did too. When she smiled, so did I. Somewhere deep inside, I screamed, but it was muffled, like shouting from the bottom of a lake. My thoughts, my memories began to blur. Who was I? When was I? Where was I? A sharp pain shot through my skull, then again, a pounding rhythm. It took me a moment to realize it wasn't pain. It was knocking, loud, desperate, from behind the mirror. "Hey, are you in there? Hello?" A voice, real. It cut through the fog like a blade. "Your landlord said you left the keys inside. Are you okay?" It was the handyman. From the beginning, the one who said the room didn't exist. The girl, my reflection, twitched. The mirror rippled. The illusion cracked. "No!" she hissed, eyes black now, mouth stretched wider than humanly possible. "Stay, you're mine." I felt it then. A choice. I could let go, stay here, let her live my life, or I could fight, with everything I had left. I screamed, not with my mouth but with my mind, pushed back, pushed hard. The girl staggered, just for a second. The mirror cracked. "Stop!" she shrieked, the voice now a chorus of hundreds, young, old, male, female, all overlapping. "You gave up! You left us!" I focused on one thing, my name, my name. Not hers, not theirs, mine. I saw flashes, birthday candles, bike rides, my mother brushing my hair, real moments, true memories. Not hers, mine. The walls around me pulsed, the photos ignited, the mirror shattered completely, light poured through like a flood, and I was falling, back through the house, through the walls, through the layers of time and shadow, until I landed hard on the floor of my bedroom, gasping, alive. It was morning. Sunlight streamed through the window. The house felt still, empty. I sat up slowly, heart hammering. The door was closed, the mirror back in its place, no cracks, no whispers, just quiet. I crawled to my phone. 10 missed calls, a voicemail from the landlord saying the handyman had seen something strange, lights flickering, voices, and got scared off. I didn't care. I was out. I moved that day, didn't pack, didn't say goodbye. I left the key on the counter and drove until the house was a memory, blurry and distant. But sometimes, when I pass a mirror in the dark, I pause. I look closely. And I wait. Because I know she's still there, waiting, smiling. And one day, if I'm not careful, she'll smile first.